Did the late heavy bombardment affect Mars too? So, absolutely. We see a lot of impact craters that come from the period of, or at least that we believe come from the period of the late heavy bombardment. So, this was a period late in the formation of the solar system where there was a heavy bombardment. There were lots of things coming in, lots of chunks of comets and asteroids and pieces of debris left over from the formation of the solar system falling into the inner solar system. And really, the best place to study this is the moon. The moon is incredible for that. We see it on Mars, we see it on Mercury as well, these places that have not had as much weathering as Earth has, and Venus as well. With Venus's volcanic activity, we see very few impact craters. But with Mars, it corresponds with a time period that we call the Noachian. So just like on Earth, we have geologic time periods, we have them for Mars as well. But with Mars, they're a lot coarser. Really, we just have these three main periods. We call them the Noachian, the Hesperian, and the Amazonian. And we could say the pre-Noachian, so we could say four really if we wanted. But the Noachian time period would have been this early time period in Mars's history where it was still being hit by these really large objects. So this is when Hellas Basin would have been formed. This is when Arger would have been formed. But it's also when there was a lot of volcanic activity. So the volcanoes would have been active, and we think that Mars would have been a much warmer period during this time. So the Hesperian's that sort of middle, it's actually the shortest of the time periods. And that's when Mars goes, we think, from this wet world where it was covered in oceans. The whole northern hemisphere was a shallow sea, to the volcanoes shutting down, the volcanism shutting down, so the atmosphere began to be lost, the core started cooling, lost the magnetic field, and by the end of it, we end up with the desert world that we're familiar with Mars today. And so the Amazonian, that's the longest period, that's where we still are, punctuated by ice ages as well, but that now this is a pretty calm time period, the Amazonian for Mars, where we just don't see a lot of impacts the way that we think happened in that early time period.